2 years have elapsed since that pivotal moment. What should have been a simple beach excursion with my son Leo turned into something else entirely. My husband Ethan couldn't join us. He never did. His career always took precedence, and I had grown accustomed to his absence. Yet that particular day carried a different weight. The feeling persists even now as the sun beat down on us. We laid out our beach towels. Perhaps the heat that day was excessive. I reclined, savoring a peaceful moment away from life's désordre, and requested Leo's help with applying sunscreen to my back. It seemed innocent enough. After all, he was my child, my own flesh and blood. Why would I question it? Initially, his movements appeared helpful and normal. Then I noticed something shift. His touch became repetitive. Venturing increasingly lower, I remained passive. Why didn't I intervene? We think we understand ourselves. Family is supposed to be sacred, yet sometimes a single moment can shatter everything we believe in. For me, that transformation occurred on the beach that day. I've been altered ever since. My marriage to Ethan had lasted over 15 years. To outsiders, we epitomize success, a beautiful home, perfect children, and a stable life. The cracks only become visible from within. Empty existence is a sensation known only to those experiencing it. For years, Ethan's work consumed him entirely, whether weekends, nights, or holidays. I convinced myself it was for our benefit that his tireless dedication would secure a better future for our family. Eventually, that rationalization lost its power. What value does an empty house hold? He had become blind to my presence. His glances grew increasingly brief upon returning home. My well-being desires and requirements ceased to matter to him. Our conversations became purely functional, discussing bills, meals, or children. He maintained affection for Leo and Lily, Leo's younger sister, yet he existed like a specter even in their presence, present physically, but spiritually absent. I would observe him across the dinner table, wondering if I still registered in his consciousness. That morning remains crystal clear in my memory. Ethan rushed through the kitchen, clutching his briefcase, planted a quick kiss on Lily's head, and cast me a fleeting glance. "I'm sorry, Freya. Something's come up at work," he explained. Declaring his absence, I offered no resistance. I simply nodded, suppressing the familiar ache in my throat. As always, I told myself everything was normal. Leo and I decided to proceed alone. At 16, Leo had grown into a lanky teenager, inheriting his father's deep brown eyes, but possessing gentler features. When I informed him it would be just us two, he responded with typical teenage indifference, a simple shrug before gathering our bags and following me to the car. He settled into the passenger seat, immersing himself in music and gazing out the window, embodying the quintessential teenage behavior. Watching him stirred a smile within me. His rapid transformation often left me fearful that a mere blink might cause him to slip away, just like everything else. As I navigated toward the beach, my thoughts inevitably drifted to Ethan, as they frequently did. Memories flooded back, our movie nights, spontaneous walks, and impulsive adventures planned on whims. I recalled his touch, the way his eyes would illuminate upon seeing me, the warmth of his presence. Those feelings had long since faded into numbness. Years of invisibility had left me emotionally depleted. Upon reaching our destination, Leo assisted in carrying our belongings to a secluded spot near the water. While he secured the umbrella, I spread out the towels. An inexplicable urge to converse with him arose. Perhaps it was the solitude, or maybe I simply craved a listener. "Isn't it wonderful out here?" I attempted to inject cheerfulness into my voice. He casually swept his hair aside, acknowledging with a simple, "Yeah, Mom, it's nice." As I reclined on the towel, sunlight enveloped my skin. I remained motionless, attempting to release years of accumulated tension, if only momentarily. The thought of sunscreen suddenly occurred to me. I sat up, turning to Leo. "Would you mind applying this to my back?" I requested. "I can't reach." He hesitated briefly before accepting the bottle. I lay face down again, waiting. His initial touch was tentative and gentle, as if afraid of causing harm. It prompted a laugh, reminiscent of his childhood, when his tiny fingers would grasp mine while crossing streets. "You can apply more pressure," I whispered. "It's okay." As he continued applying the lotion across my shoulders and back, His movements grew more confident. The rhythmic warmth of his hands lulled me into closing my eyes. I allowed myself to briefly savor the sensation. The realization of how long I'd gone without physical contact struck me with unexpected force. Then his hands began a careful, deliberate descent along the curve of my back. I struggled to breathe, my mouth opening, but failing to form words. Despite the storm of thoughts in my mind, I remained silent. I tried convincing myself that everything was normal, that his actions were innocent, and I was imagining things. Deep down, I recognized the truth, though. After placing the towel down, his hands lingered uncertainly at the edge. The mutual hesitation was palpable, yet I didn't intervene. Instead, I uttered words I would forever regret. "It's okay. You can touch there too." The words seemed to hang suspended in the air like a looming threat, and immediately I realized the abnormality of the situation. He remained silent, and Leo continued. I squeezed my eyes shut as his hands ventured where they shouldn't. My heart thundered so loudly I feared he might hear it. The urge to rise and stop him burned within me. But I remained still. I found myself paralyzed. I took no action to prevent it. Even now I struggle to comprehend my inaction. Perhaps it was the crushing weight of loneliness. Maybe it was a desperate need for acknowledgement despite its inappropriate nature, or possibly I had simply ceased to care. That day on the beach, something fundamental within me shattered forever, altering my world. I appreciate you continuing to listen. I understand this isn't easy to hear, and I'm grateful for your attention. If this story resonates with you or might help someone you know, please consider liking and subscribing. Your support enables me to share more stories like this and helps alleviate my sense of isolation. Let's continue forward. After that day, everything shifted dramatically. The way Leo's gaze changed the events that transpired and my emotional state were all irreversible. This wasn't a fleeting moment or insignificant event. It persisted. Meeting his eyes afterward, I couldn't identify what had changed in his expression, yet I found myself unable to look away. We buried everything upon returning home that evening, pretending nothing had occurred. I went through the motions, preparing dinner, discussing Leo's school day, and folding laundry late into the night. My hands trembled continuously as I reflected on the afternoon's events. His touch, his lingering presence, and my tension all haunted my thoughts. I felt disgusted with myself and hated how he'd made me feel about my own child. Ethan remained oblivious to any changes. He consistently arrived home late, his face bearing exhaustion, tie loosened. He mechanically kissed my cheek, the gesture now devoid of its former affection. Rough day. I attempted conversation. He merely grunted and nodded before heading to the living room. The usual routine continued uninterrupted. His presence made me feel insignificant, like I had become invisible once again. That night, as Ethan's snores filled our bedroom, I lay awake, my eyes fixed on the ceiling above. Though silence enveloped the house, my thoughts screamed deafeningly in my head. Leo consumed my every thought, his hands, his penetrating gaze, and everything that had transpired between us. I knew I needed to end whatever this was before it spiraled further out of control, recognizing the wrongness of it all. Yet a darker, more isolated part of my soul clung to these moments, craving the physical connection, the attention, and that profound sense of being truly seen. As days passed, Leo maintained his silence about our encounters, but his quietness spoke volumes more than any words could. He didn't maintain his distance. Rather, he seemed to draw closer. His eyes would follow me as I moved through my daily routines, cooking, cleaning, or during my solitary moments in the evening. I allowed this surveillance to continue. I neither stopped his behavior nor my own complicity. The following weekend brought unbearable heat, making the house feel like an inferno. Ethan was absent again, called away for another unexpected work shift. Once more, it was just Leo and me. I found myself asking if he wanted to return to the beach alone. The motivation behind my suggestion remained unclear even to me. Perhaps I thought the open air would bring clarity to my confused mind. Maybe I wanted to test my resolve to see if I could push away these inappropriate feelings. The car ride passed in silence. This time Leo didn't fidget with his ears. He remained still staring out the window, his knee bouncing nervously. I attempted to break the silence repeatedly, but words failed me, despite my best efforts. We arrived to find the beach nearly deserted. The ocean gleamed a brilliant azure, and the breeze provided welcome relief against my skin. Again, we laid out our towels, and Leo helped with the setup. I couldn't bring myself to mention sunscreen this time. I lay down and closed my eyes, pretending normalcy. But his gaze remained palpable. His attention was unmistakable. Everything finally culminated that afternoon. We decided to use the beach showers before leaving. It was supposed to be a quick rinse to remove the sand, but something inexplicable occurred. Leo stepped under the water first, letting it cascade down his back. I stood aside, watching him momentarily before joining. Without fully understanding my actions, I removed my clothes and stood beside him, under the cool stream, letting the water flow over my skin. When Leo turned to look at me, his expression was unreadable. His face held a mixture of emotions: surprise, uncertainty, or perhaps something else entirely. No words escaped his lips. Meeting his gaze briefly, I found myself saying, "You should remove your shorts as well, for a proper rinse." The words surprised even me. Perhaps I was asserting control, testing boundaries, or simply discovering my own limits. He hesitated momentarily before complying, sliding off his shorts. The rain continued its descent as we stood there in isolation. With my back turned to him, I softly requested, "Help me wash my back." He obliged without hesitation. His touch remained gentle, cautious, yet the tension between us was palpable. When his fingers grazed my waist, I froze in place. The atmosphere grew heavy with the rushing water drowning out all other sounds. I could have walked away. The power to end this lay in my hands. Instead, I chose to lean back against him, taking his hands and guiding them upward to my chest. He offered no resistance. What followed defies complete description. I won't attempt to detail it fully. It was a whirlwind of desperate need, profound solitude, and something more fundamental that escapes definition. Gentleness was absent. There was no slow tenderness either. It was raw, desperate, and fundamentally wrong. Though part of me wanted to stop, I couldn't bring myself to do so. I didn't want to end it. Afterward, we remained motionless, under the continuing cascade which washed away the physical evidence, but couldn't erase the reality. His embrace enveloped me with an intimacy I hadn't experienced in years. I allowed myself this moment. Words failed us both afterward. We walked back to the car in silence, dried ourselves, gathered our belongings, and departed. Glancing sideways at Leo, I noticed his reddened lips and rigid movements. I knew I had irreparably damaged everything. We had crossed an uncrossable line, yet I felt more alive than I had in years. The drive home began in heavy silence. The atmosphere inside the car felt oppressive, as if the air itself had become a tangible weight. Though my eyes remained fixed on the road and my hands gripped the steering wheel, my thoughts wandered uncontrollably. His presence lingered. The magnitude of our actions, the memory of his touch, the intensity of the moment. I couldn't help stealing glances at him in the passenger seat. He sat motionless, his gaze fixed outside the window. His flushed face and taut expression betrayed his inner turmoil. Then, unexpectedly, he broke the silence. "Mom," he whispered, his voice barely audible. I couldn't bring myself to look at him, though his words reached me clearly. What happened back there?" My pulse quickened at his words. For a brief moment, I contemplated feigning ignorance, changing the subject, or simply remaining silent. But after what had transpired between us, denial seemed futile. Drawing an unsteady breath, I managed to whisper, "I don't know." The response was honest, or as close to honesty as I could muster. Understanding the nature and cause of what had occurred seemed beyond my grasp. I only knew with certainty that everything had shifted irrevocably. The silence persisted as we pulled into the driveway. Though the engine ceased with my touch, neither of us made a move to exit Leo's gaze, then fixed upon me with startling intensity. Something in his expression sent a shiver through me. It wasn't remorse, shame, or doubt that I saw reflected there. It was pure, unrestrained desire. "How long have you felt this way?" His question sent tremors through my body. The same thought had been haunting my mind. When our eyes met, something primal awakened within me. "I'm not certain," I whispered softly. "Maybe." I could have added, "longer than I should have." We remained there, enveloped in darkness, surrounded by the weight of unspoken words. I thought that would be the conclusion. We would enter the house, push this aside, pretend it never happened. But Leo had different intentions. Before I could reach for my door handle, his lips found mine. The kiss began tentatively, slowly, as if he feared I might recoil. But I didn't. I surrendered to his kiss, and he responded in kind. Something inside me unraveled. Then, perhaps it was the loneliness, the years without genuine affection, or the way Leo gazed at me with an intensity I hadn't experienced in ages. Whatever it was, I didn't resist. Right there outside our home, he drew me closer, his hands exploring me as if they belonged. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt truly alive, wanted, visible. Nothing else seemed to matter. I lost track of how long we remained intertwined, but eventually we made our way inside. The journey to the door exists in my memory only as impressions, the feel of his hand in mine, the electric silence between us. Once inside, our restraint crumbled completely. It was as if we'd been containing ourselves for an eternity, and finally the floodgates opened. After that time became a blur, Leo was constantly near, finding excuses to brush against me or catch my eye. When we were alone, I repeatedly told myself to end this, but each time I looked at him, I recognized the same emptiness I carried within. We were like mirrors, reflecting each other's yearning, and resistance seemed impossible. I didn't want to. At night, I would lie beside Ethan, staring at the ceiling while listening to his rhythmic breathing. My thoughts invariably drifted to Leo. His touch awakened something in me that I thought had long since died, though guilt coiled within me like a venomous serpent. It wasn't powerful enough to deter me. I recognized the wrongness, knew it couldn't endure, yet found myself helplessly drawn to him. The tension between us escalated until it reached its breaking point. One evening, while Ethan worked late and Lily slept soundly, I stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes in an attempt to quiet my troubled mind. Leo appeared behind me. When I turned, his gaze held the same intensity it had that day at the beach. "Be careful," I whispered. But he remained unmoved. He drew closer until I could feel his warm breath against my skin. "Mom," he murmured, "you're all I think about." A chill ran through me. My heart thundered so violently I feared it might detonate. I instructed him to stop, to return to his room, to leave me in peace. The words felt hollow even as they left my lips. I couldn't stop either. That's when everything shattered. Leo kissed me again. This time with desperate intensity. Raw need. I responded in kind. The wrongness of it all ceased to matter. Thoughts of Ethan, Lily, and our carefully constructed life together vanished. There was only Leo, my boy, the first person in years to make me feel truly seen. Nothing has been the same since that day at the beach. I doubt it ever will be. Leo and I crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. The shame is constant, a perpetual ache, yet it doesn't deter me. That's what terrifies me most. I look at Ethan and Lily daily, wondering how they remain blind to it, how they fail to see the fractures spreading through our family. Perhaps they're too consumed by their own lives, or maybe I've become more adept at concealment, but I know this can't persist indefinitely. Secrets have a way of surfacing. When they do, everything will crumble. I've attempted to end it. I've told myself it's wrong that both Leo and I deserve better, but I lose all resolve when he touches me or looks at me as though I'm his entire world. He makes me feel more alive than I have in years, perhaps more than ever before. That's the reality I must confront. This situation is broken, and I'm at a loss for how to mend it. I'm not certain I even can. That's why I'm sharing this story. I'm hoping someone out there possesses insight. I lack some wisdom I haven't considered. Please help me find a way out before it's too late. I'm reaching out to anyone who has experienced something similar or can offer guidance. If nothing else, let my story serve as a cautionary tale. Isolation can lead you down paths you never imagined possible. Don't allow it to consume your existence as it has mine. Don't wait until your world crumbles before recognizing the gravity of your situation. Some boundaries, once crossed, leave permanent scars. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Please share your thoughts and experiences. If my story resonates with you, consider following for more content and leaving a like. I need to know I'm not alone in this darkness. Sometimes the deepest wounds aren't those we inflict on others. The most profound betrayals are often the ones we commit against ourselves.